hate you at all. I'm happy you're actually discussing the game. All I want to do is discuss the game, and I have nobody to have like 5-hour engaging conversations with that are actually like high-level killer. So this is why you get all these responses from me, because you're actually a respectable killer with opinions on the game and ideas about how to fix it. This is just I want to engage in the conversation with you. I guess that's why you see this from me. I love you, dude. Okay. So, our boy Scott John is at it again. Hey Scott, I liked your video. If that's any, like, I left it a like. That probably doesn't mean jack shit to you, but you know, whatever. I left you a like, my guy. Okay, so again, this is what I usually do here now. Instead of just like writing out something huge, I usually just like go through and I don't like that Huntress one. I usually just go through and like, you know, respond to some things that you say. I usually just go through, play the video, and just respond to things that are said in it, instead of writing a huge ass thing that'll take a lot of time out of my own day. I could just say these things as I think them on camera. I think that's a lot easier. Okay, so what are we doing here, bruh? The trial warm-up, a possible solution to generator speeds in Dead by Daylight. Okay, let's watch. Let's have another watch of this. Which I've already seen it, but again, just so I don't miss anything, let's go ahead and just respond to it.
Hey guys, Scott here, and I think I have an incredibly simple yet effective solution for generator speeds being a bit too fast in Dead by Daylight. I've always been of the opinion that simply adding more time to generators is not a good idea. It is quite literally the most boring thing a survivor can do in the match. And while getting gen rushed is equally unfun, making...
It's not that it's unfun, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's unfun because it's not fair. Unfun could be like... You know, unfun could just be, you know, I guess sitting on the generator technically isn't the most fun thing you can do in the match, but like it's not fair to get gen rush. It's not that it's not fun, it's not fair. It's not fun because it's not fair. Sitting on a generator speed, you know, it may not be fun, but it would be more fair. So, but yeah, whatever. They're not gonna do that, so nobody has to worry about it but killers.
People have less fun too is not the correct solution. Because of this, I've always seen game delay as more of a natural thing that occurs during a match, if a killer is able to do his job. The game naturally slows down very drastically once somebody gets on a hook due to a snowball effect of...
I disagree with that. The game doesn't slow down drastically. It slows down a tiny bit once somebody's on a hook. Once the killer has massive control and one person is slugged and then the other person is down and then we're chasing another guy, then we have massive slowdown. The killer has to do major effort to get control of the game. If there is one survivor on a hook, then you still have two survivors on gens, okay? One survivor's on a hook, at least 3 survivors are on a generator when the hook happens. Somebody has to go in for the save, but they have all the time in the world to do it. So they can power through a generator if they need to. And then once you chase somebody, then you have one person still on a generator. The game is still progressing. The game is still progressing. And the game progresses too fast because of the big, giant, massive loops that survivors have. You can't... Getting consistent downs for a snowball effect is something you can't really depend on as killer. That's not reliable. That's why True uses a hit and run method, because that's more reliable. Getting a hit as Ghostface on the Wraith, because they have stealth mechanics, that's way more reliable than consistently snowballing via downs. Getting downs was a super unreliable way of slowing the game down, which is unfortunate because it's the most reliable way killers have. It is. Getting downs is the most reliable way of slowing the game down, but it's still an unreliable method of doing so because the game still moves too fast. The game still moves fast when that happens. You can just watch once. Like, seriously, once the game is like happening, like, how many times when you're like a survivor do you power through a gen before you save somebody? Like, it's like getting somebody on a hook doesn't slow the game down nearly as much as he claims in this video. That doesn't help. It helps in the same way that Hex Ruin helps, the new one. It helps, but like, is it really winning you the game? I mean, I guess it's technically the win condition, but like one hook is not saving you when you're killer. One hook is not saving you. One hook is like delaying the inevitable. Once you have real pressure is when you have at least 2 people unoccupied. That's real pressure. When somebody's dead and then you have then are chasing the guy, that's real pressure. That's when the game really slows down. Once you actually have somebody dead, which again, survivors will try to make it so there's like 2 and 1 gen left when they have somebody dead, because then they can just power through it. Because powering through it is just what they do. Power through a gen, make the rescue, and then borrow time. You know how survivors do things. You know the little vermin like to do things. That's what they do. It's like a snowball effect is capable of happening, but you shouldn't ever rely on that. You're losing until like you have somebody dead with 3 gens left. That's when you're not losing anymore. Killer starts the game losing, and they are losing until somebody is dead. Once somebody is dead, and then they have to look at the generator count. If there's less than 3 left, the game is still alive. If there's 3 left, then you basically won. You're losing until you've won. That's how killer works. There's no like, there's very little room for comeback potential in this game. Very, very little. Very, very little on either side. Once the killer is somebody dead with 3 gens left, the game's basically over. All he has to do is close it out. Which closing it out is way easier than winning it. So like the snowball effect is not strong right now. Nothing about killer is strong right now. Nothing. 0. Killers can't just get one down and then snowball. If you get one, that because if the snowball effect was really that great for killers wouldn't be struggling as much as we are right now. If it was that great and it was that powerful, we wouldn't need to be even talking about a trial warm-up if the snowball was that good. Because if you get it down when only 1 gen's done and the snowballing was really that strong, then we'd be fine. But the snowballing's not that strong. I know it's not strong because we're all upset right now, and we still have to make videos about trial warm-ups because it's not strong right now. That's the problem. It's not good enough. Nothing about killer is good enough right now. The role is inherently weak because the idea of a snowball is something we don't really have. We have it a little tiny bit. If you have like a 10% chance of actually snowballing, so like that's not good enough for a power roll. Killer is the most laughable power roll I've ever seen in my life. Okay, that's something a little defocused on. But again, just that one hook is not good enough to just help you win the game. Not like by any means. You have not come back until somebody's dead. You start the game losing, and you aren't back in it until somebody's dead. It's literally that simple.
Well, this guy's on the hook. He's not doing a gen. The guy coming to save him's not doing a gen. Now I'm chasing a 3rd guy. He's not doing a gen, and stuff like that.
Yeah, but somebody still is. And it depends on when you get that first down, whether the game is slowed down enough to actually mean anything. Again, if they pop 2 gens on you and then you down somebody, like, they have set themselves up for a super good pace to where they can literally, they can go in the bathroom, jerk off, and then still have enough time to finish the generators. Like, they can literally do whatever they want once they got you by the balls, which I know that's what this video is about, stopping, but like, the killer snowball, it doesn't really mean anything. There's a reason that, like, survivors have a massive advantage when they get 2 gens done, then somebody goes down, because the hook is easy. The hook is easy. Once you set yourself up by having a good early game, like, it's literally the easiest thing in the world. Just make the saves, do the gens at the pace because you know that the killer's fucked. Your gen spacing is good, they're equally spread out. If they're spread out, the map is not smaller. That's something he says later, but the map getting smaller. Yeah, killer's super strong if you 3-gen yourselves, but that's a super big mistake for survivors to do. 3-genning yourselves is a mistake. That should not be happening at the red ranks. That you won't see happening when you have an MMR system in the game. When people are actually getting matched via their MMR, and their MMR is determining their skill level and shit, you won't see 3 gens anymore. When you're a high enough MMR. 3-genning is a mistake, but we'll get there later. So it's like, 2 gens power, like, at that point the game is basically over. All the survivors have to do is execute. It's the same manner where if the killer downs somebody, kills somebody when there's 3 gens left, all they have to do then is just execute and finish the game off. It's closing the deal. The game's already over. The Dead by Daylight ends. The chance for killer to win technically can end within like a minute if the survivors are doing good. All that they have to do once like they pop 2 gens and the killer gets the first down is to close the game. It's all killer is us fighting an uphill battle from the beginning and it's starting in disadvantage, and they have to come back from it. That's immediately how the role inherently works. Not saying that I want that to be changed or anything, because that's like the nature of killer is that you start in disadvantage. That's just the nature of the role itself. But like the problem is that the momentum that you get after you down somebody just it's not nearly as strong as this video makes it out to be. So already we're at a faulty premise for even making a system called the Trial Warmup to just fix the game, because the game isn't just fixed when you down somebody. The game is still as equally as unbalanced when you down somebody. The game is still problematic after you down somebody. The gens will still fly at the pace that they need to for the survivors to win. The survivors will also have a big indication of when that can happen. They have an indication of when the gens need to fly in order to win. And the survivors are more than willing to wait the guy who's waiting on the hook, like wait till his very last possible moment to get rescued before he hits stage 2, very possible moment to get rescued before he dies. They're more than happy to make those decisions. If they see that the killer is picking up his pace a little bit, they'll leave the guy on the hook to focus on the gens just a little longer, maybe to get that extra pop, you know? They have the control of that. They have the control of whether their teammate lives or dies. You don't, unless you camp, and then you lose anyway. So already we're at a faulty premise here, because we're making a system based on the fact that the killer is just Gucci after he gets it down, which is just not true. Not saying that this entire thing is going to be bad, because I don't think it's all bad. I don't think this is a bad idea at all, actually. But like already, like we're setting ourselves up for a faulty premise already. This is actually a decent idea. If it makes you feel any better, this is a decent idea. But there's some work it has to do on it, because we're already at the idea that the killer is just Gucci after he gets the first down, which is absolutely not true. Killer is not Gucci after 1 down. Killer is Gucci get wrecked after 1 down. You ain't saved yet. 1 down doesn't save you by any stretch.
The thing that makes Dead by Daylight fun is the interaction between the killer and the survivors.
I agree with that.
The more the killer can interact with the survivors, the more the game slows down, and the more survivors get to do the things that are actually fun in their role. However, as it stands right now, there's just no reason to go interact with the killer. The only thing survivors have to do when not being chased in the beginning is just do generators. This is boring and makes the killer feel kind of helpless, because at that stage, while he's looking for his first down, all the survivors are rapidly completing their objective. The plan fix I have aims to force killer-survivor interaction earlier and punish survivors if they choose to not do so. Additionally, it also aims to band-aid large maps taking a long time to traverse, while also giving killers with weak early game like Trapper, Hag, Myers, and Oni a bit more of a chance in the beginning. However, it also accepts that once a killer does start downing people, the game slows down drastically, and to retain a penalty to like generator speeds when the game is naturally slowing down would be unfair to survivors.
How unfair would it be? How unfair would it be? I mean, I just like, how unfair would it really be to have a natural regression for survivors? You could do what I said. What I said would just be make initial gen times take long. Make the initial few generators take way longer, and then as the game progresses, then make the generators start to be easier to fix. Make those early gens take a longer time. That would be just as easy as programming a trial warm-up in. Just make the early gens take longer. Leave the late ones at 80, 44. You could, but just make them numbers at the beginning not so bad. It's literally that simple. Like, you don't have to make every generator take longer, just those first few. But, like, again, we're on a faulty premise, because Scott John's under the assumption here that natural killer slowdown is good enough to carry them after they get it down, which is just simply not true. It's just simply not true. It's barely viable. It's barely viable. You have to be, like, flying like a fucking locomotive, getting downs left and right if you want to stop the survivors from completing the generators. Because they go so fucking fast. You can, like, we go everything I talked about before with the fucking, they have complete control over you, etc. Just all the stuff like that. They have complete control. But, like, again, we'll go back. So, like, alleviate the issue of giant maps, allow killers with the early game. So that's fine, Daddy. I don't know if I actually agree with increased early game interaction, because if you want to increase early game interaction, just have the killer always spawn next to somebody. That would increase early game interaction. Like, why do the patrol time if we're just gonna punish survivors for not interacting with the killer? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Like, just have the killer spawn next to somebody. Here you go. You spawn right next to a guy at Shack every time. There you go. Easy. It's basically just this is like what we're doing here is it's just, again, like he even says the word band-aid. This just feels like we're slapping a band-aid over the real problems with the game, because the problem with this game is not just that the early game is weak. That's not the only problem Killer has. This game doesn't just get fixed magically if you do what he suggests here, but we'll get to that. But like, okay, we have a great idea. We have some good intentions here. So, well, these are good intentions, certainly better than the last.
And to retain a penalty to like generator speeds when the game is naturally slowing down would be unfair to survivors. All that being said, we will call this idea the trial warm-up.
Okay.
Similar to how the endgame collapse, aims to speed things up at the end, the trial warm-up aims to slow them down at the beginning, and it does so very simply. At the beginning of the match, things are a bit different. The letterbox intro does not fade. There's an ominous heartbeat kind of drum sound effect. The sky and lighting is a bit more red, and no other music plays, or whatever visual effects you want to indicate this. During this time, generator repair speeds are slowed down drastically. I'm talking like 50% slower or even more. This slowdown, along with all visual effects and all of the trial warm-up, immediately ends.
Okay, so let's talk about what that would mean real fast. So we're talking... Here's what we're talking about. We're talking... He says 50%. We'll just take that number. That would turn an 80-second gen time into a 160 gen time, which is... it's 120 for 2 minutes, so that would turn one survivor on a generator into 160 divided by 60, right? Into a 2.6 minute fix. Okay, that sounds great. That sounds great. For at least for the early game, like that massive penalty would actually not be that bad. Okay, but now we get into all the weird numbers. Whereas we got 44 seconds, right? 44 seconds for fixing for 2 survivors on a gen. That times 2 is only 88. That's not much better. That's not much better. So yeah, it sounds great on paper. 35 times 2. 70. That's still quicker than 1 survivor on a gen right now. There was still precedence for them popping generators in this method. This method does not fix everything. 50%. And he said you could do even more, but if you took the number 50%, that doesn't fix everything. The fact is that the numbers that they have on generators right now are incredibly stupid and potentially would not fix anything. Granted, it would make it easier. It would objectively make it easier, and you wouldn't see stupid shit like maybe 2 gens popping in 3 minutes. That would help. But like Two survivors on a generator would only be 88 seconds. 3 for survivors on a generator, 35 times 2, only 70 seconds. That still doesn't help very much. It saves like what? Half? I guess it technically saves what, half a minute? But it's like, you think half a minute's gonna help Killer? You think giving them half a minute's gonna help? Ask killers to have Hex Ruin cleanse in 30 seconds how much half a minute helped. It doesn't. Giving them half a minute, like, again, survivors can still, there are still precedents for survivors retaining early advantage, even in this method. So this method's not, like, again, this is a complete band-aid fix. So like that time, it would be better. It doesn't save the game by any stretch of the imagination at all.
Ends on the following conditions. Firstly, the killer initiates a chase.
Okay.
Second, the chase begins, all slowdown and effects are reverted and the game truly begins.
Alright.
To prevent cheesing chase mechanics, if a survivor loses a health state or is simply in striking distance of a killer, the warm-up also ends as well. And that's it. I think that's
literally it. Okay, so here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with that. So what is to prevent like this mechanic again? I know he addresses this. He addresses this argument later, but I'm gonna bring up this argument. What is to prevent somebody from going right up to the killer, ending the mechanic while 2 people are on a gen to revert them back to their broken times? Because here, let's be real. You want to be fucking real for a second? Let's be real. Who really initiates a chase? Who really initiates a chase? Let's really think about this here. To say that the killer initiates a chase 100% of the time is complete dog shit. That's not true. That's not true at all. How many times does the chase music start with a clue and you're near a Claudette and you don't even know? Like seriously. How many times? It doesn't happen often, but it happens. Granted, it doesn't happen often, but it happens. if the survivor runs up to you, the chase starts. So survivors are just as capable as initiating a chase as a killer is. How many times does somebody walk in front of you with a flashlight and click, 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 or drop a pallet on you and you don't know, click, 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 and then look at that. The chase started. You didn't initiate it, they did. That still doesn't alleviate the power roll back to the real power roll. The survivors are still fully capable of cheesing this. There's another way I can explain that they can still cheese it. This isn't perfect. And again, as soon as this happens, boom, they have their broken gen times back. Doesn't save anything. It doesn't. This wouldn't save anything. Especially since sometimes the killer can spawn like kind of near a survivor, but then 2 other ones spawn away from them. So all the 2 survivors will literally have to do is wait for the one guy to get found, sit on a generator, boom, they get their broken times back, and maybe the gen takes about 55 or 60 seconds instead of 44. Like big whoopty shit. And then the map is still broken, so the map is still busted, so they're still gonna power through 1.8 gens on you when you get your first down. So that wouldn't save it. That's so like in that hypothetical situation, killer's still fickety fucked in the ass. They're still fucked in that situation, even with this method. That would be in the game, because it's not hard. It's not hard at all to get rid of this.
All that's actually needed to slow games down, because games kind of slow themselves down once the killer begins interacting with survivors.
Actually, the first time I listened to this, I thought it sounded pretty decent, but actually now I'm listening to it again, I'm thinking of tons of ideas to get rid of this as a survivor. There are plenty of options that they have to get rid of this.
This simple mechanic fixes so many things, and it even fits into the game's lore. First, it gives killers, like I said before, Trapper, Hag, even like Demogorgon, a chance to set up their powers. It also addresses maps that are far too big by equalizing them with smaller maps, as the game doesn't truly begin until a killer initiates a chase, regardless of the size of the map.
You know, I do like that. That's still good, because a thing like this, admittedly, would kind of even out map sizes. It would do that. That would be a big help. In terms, not every idea in this situation is terrible.
It emboldens survivors to want to seek out the killer for the sake of their teammates, which enables the fun gameplay of actually playing like a multiplayer game. The first survivor to be chased would receive a new scoring event called Chosen and would gain some extra blood points for the first one being chased. I think a simple change like this is really all the game needs. There are still obviously maps that need addressing because, you know, all the early game delay in the world doesn't change the fact that some maps just spawn truly busted setups, but I think
that's not just some, that's a majority. A majority of the maps spawn truly busted setups. And like again, like he just said, all the early game delay in the world doesn't fix that. Killer can still be fucked in the ass with all this shit in there. Because once this thing is gone, they still have everything that they would need to like win the game. Remember, survivors have enough pallets. Survivors have enough pallets to where they cannot play a single mind game and have enough to beat you. They don't have to play a single mind game. A lot of these maps weren't designed with looping in mind. So they have enough pallets on the map. The behavior's base tile pool is too big. They have enough pallets on the map to not play a single mind game and still beat you. They can even if this idea gets in, if this proposed idea theoretically got into the game, first of all, it can be cheesed significantly. I'll get into that later. And then, and like again, this doesn't save killer by any stretch of the imagination. This wouldn't save killer. What a free like 20 more seconds of 20 seconds of 50% gen slowdown. We already went over the numbers. The numbers don't save it. 2 survivors on a generator would be barely more than a gen is now with 1 survivor on it. And with toolboxes, you could potentially even make that number easier. So you could check that number. 2 survivors with a mechanics toolbox can probably decrease that number to below what a 1 survivor would be, even with the 50% regression. Because survivors grouped on a gen and toolboxes are busted. So even with that shows you how dumb, like seriously, that shows you how dumb their generator speed is right now. That they could literally have a 50% regression and still fuck you in the ass. Like they still have the potential to fuck you in the ass with 2 people on gens. Ridiculous. So, but again, the maps the maps still would need help. That's why this is a band-aid fix. But anyway.
I think this is a far more fun and effective way of slowing the game down instead of adding other objectives or adding more base time to generators. Now, when making ideas like these, I try to think of counter-arguments before I address them. For example, you might say that teams could still just have their best looper run at the killer and still run him around, largely negating the mechanic entirely. But the killer can also address that by seeing an angry man sprinting at them and just not initiating a chase with him. Still, the survivor can get...
that'd be funny, wouldn't it? The best kiter running toward the killer and the killer running away for them so the chase mechanic doesn't start. That'd be a funny visual. Because again, survivors are just as capable of starting a chase as the killer is. So a fucking survivor running at the killer to start the chase mechanic? That's fucking hilarious, dude. The killer would be running from the survivor so they wouldn't have their broken gen times. Ridiculous. And like, again, let me tell you something. Here...
range of the killer to force the mechanic to end, but at that point the killer is given a free hit, which is still a massively beneficial time save later down.
You think that's a beneficial time saver? I've went over this 12 months ago. The first hit is inherently easier than the second hit. Killers don't need a free first hit. Legion proves that. Free first hits don't mean jack shit, because you can still kite. Lots of killers, like even the old Freddy, basically got a free first hit. Granted, his first hit wasn't super free. The Wraith got the Wraith was deemed bad for a long time. Free first hits don't save killer by any stretch of the imagination. Then what? They get one hit and then they have to run the map. And then guess what? As soon as you have to run that map, you play right into their hands. And you get one hit, the mechanic ends. The SWF duo that's on a generator now has access to their 44-second busted generator time. And then guess what? The gen pops in 50 seconds, you get your first down, another one pops in a second, you're still losing. And again, you don't have enough to snowball, and then the mechanic didn't do anything. And let me tell you something. I run Object of Obsession when I play Survivor. The Object of Obsession completely shits on this mechanic. Completely shits on it. All you have to do is run right toward the killer, go hey, over here, and then boom, easy. It's literally that easy. Like, the killer doesn't have to initiate chase with me. Maybe if the killer had to press a button to start the chase, then it would work. But, like, the fact is, all I gotta do is get in a place that would slightly inconvenience him, and then boom, easy. Object of Obsession would completely eat this mechanic. And plus, if there's an SWF, all the person with Object of Obsession has to do is tell their teammates, hey, the killer's at the fucking fractured cowshed. He spawned at the cowshed, go get him. Like, do you see how dumb? But there is potential to cheese this. There is potential to cheese this. Super potential to cheese this. This will not save the game by any stretch of the imagination. And then all the survivors have to do is like, okay, we have one extra thing to do before we have access to our broken generator times. Easy. Like, it's not, this wouldn't be a big deal. Remember, survivors have enough time to masturbate 4 times and still get the generators done. Like, they have time to do whatever the fuck they want. This 20-second objective wouldn't solve a single fucking thing. It wouldn't solve a single fucking thing. Because, this wouldn't do anything. Especially since, again, Object of Obsession shits on it. And, like, even if you're playing a stealth killer, like, don't even give me that Object beats stealth killer. Like, stealth killer can do this. All that person with Object has to do is know when the fucking thing's lighting up, because they can still see when their eyes lighting up when you're running Object against a ghost face. All you gotta do is keep running right toward the light. What's up, bruh? I'm here. Come get me. Maybe, like, it would be better if maybe this would probably be a better thing if the killer had to hit somebody before it ended. Because if you make the killer have to hit somebody before it ended, that's something that the killer has the power to do. By giving survivors a chance to end it, there is massive potential for cheesing here. Because, like, think about it this way. If the person running Object of Obsession couldn't just get in your face and make it end, or tell your teammates, hey, he's over there, just go get in his face and make it end, this'll be easy. Like, the killer had to actually hit somebody for it to end, that would be much better, because it gives the power roll actual power over the mechanic. The fact is, if you give this power to the survivors, this mechanic doesn't work. Because survivors abuse their privileges. They abuse their privileges. Anything you give them, they will abuse. I'm telling you, at the red ranks, all you have to do is say, hey, the guy with Object knows where he is. Just go get in his face real fast. Maybe blend it in the cornfields and make him not see you. That'd be super optimal. There is so much potential to cheese this. If it got in the game. No, it's not, like, again, it's not a big deal because it's not in the game. But, like, this doesn't fix anything. This would not fix anything. This would maybe make early generator times take 20 seconds longer, which big whoop. Big whoop. Ask a killer that Ruin got cleansed in 20 seconds back in the day, how much that helped. It doesn't. That didn't help. That wouldn't solve anything. What solves something, you know, again, here's what I would suggest. What you do is you just make the base generator a time at the beginning take longer. Every generator that gets completed, the time gets shortened. That's all you gotta do, bro. That's all you gotta do. That way, it solves the time. It gives killers the thing we want, which is more slower gen times. Because I think it's funny that because slower gen times aren't the thing, but like his solution basically incorporates slower gen speeds. Slower gen speeds at the beginning. Every time they pop a generator, the time gets faster. That's all you have to do. Obviously, you gotta fix the maps too, because the maps are something that just need fixed. All the gens slow down in the world doesn't fix the maps. The maps need balanced. And again, this could have all been avoided if you just left Ruin in the game. All you had to do was not listen to the rank 15 babies, and it'd be fine, bruh.
On the line. The whole idea is to give the killer a much-needed helping hand in the early game where they are drastically weaker, but not really touch the rest of the game, as I don't really think the rest of the game needs much changing in terms of generator speeds, because the killer does get stronger as the game goes on and the map becomes smaller and smaller.
The map becomes smaller and smaller. Good survivors don't let that happen. Good survivors space the generators out enough to where the map doesn't ever become smaller. If you're playing a team of survivors that know what they're doing, the map shouldn't ever become smaller. If you're playing against a fucking team of survivors where the map gets smaller, they fucked up. That's a survivor error. If a 3-gen map becomes smaller is a survivor mistake. You shouldn't ever be seeing that in optimal gameplay. You never see it in Identity 5's tournaments. I'm going to keep bringing up the Identity 5 as tournaments. Identity 5 don't 3-gen themselves. You never see top players do it. Because they're smarter than that. So, basically relying on a survivor mistake should tell you how weak the fucking role is.
To me, Dead by Daylight is not repairing generators or just aimlessly wandering looking for people as the killer. These are the most boring aspects of the game. The game actually begins when the killer interacts with the survivors, and with the Trial Warmup, that would now be a real intended mechanic. It addresses that period of helplessness killers feel at the beginning, especially in large maps, while reinforcing what makes this game so fun to play. It even fits lore-wise, like I said. You could easily say it's like the entity giving the survivors a small amount of hope for a defeat on later when the killer arrives. I honestly can't really think of any downsides to this. It can't be cheese.
I feel like people don't know what Object of Obsession is. I really feel like people just forgot about it. Like, Object of Obsession eats it. It eats it for breakfast, and then it shits it out and then re-eats it like a fucking rabbit, bro. Object of Obsession would completely destroy this mechanic. And it's like, well, that's one counter. But, like, the idea is their Spine Chill could get rid of it. Lots of these perks could easily... Like, if a Myers has to stalk you and Spine Chill's going off, you know exactly what's going on. Oh, there's a stealth killer here. They're fucking stalking me. All I gotta do is run out and start a chase. Granted, that would let Myers probably tear up, which would help him. That would help him, admittedly. But it's like, how does that help the Wraith? Well, the Wraith has to uncloak. See, the Wraith, this would actually help the Wraith big time, because the Wraith actually has to uncloak to start a chase. So the Wraith could use this mechanic really well, so he would get better. But, like, the problem is the Wraith doesn't... The other killers don't share that control over the mechanic. Survivors can just easily cheese this. On every killer on the roster but one. This mechanic is not a big deal at all at the red ranks. This mechanic would not work. It is very easy to see why this mechanic wouldn't work. Because, like, his counter argument is like the legit reason it doesn't work. All you gotta do is run up in a killer's face because you have control if they started a chase or not. If the killer had to press a button like the Wraith does, that's why this works with the Wraith, because the Wraith has to press a button. The Wraith has to press a button to start a chase. He has to uncloak. That's why it works with him. It does. But this doesn't work for anybody else. No, and again, like, once the chase starts, the survivors have access to the generator speeds. Like seriously, the generator speeds are still busted. So giving survivors maybe 20 seconds without their generator speed is not going to save the game. Killer snowballing is not good enough to hold off those generator speeds. All you have to do is play high-level killer to know that. One down doesn't mean you win the game. You can still easily lose when you get one down. And like I said before, so let's say a survivor lasts, let's just say a hypothetical situation here. There's 2 survivors on a generator. You have started the match, okay? You're playing, it doesn't matter who you're playing really. You start the match as killer, you run in, this mechanic is in the game. So survivors have a 50% reduction. That's the number he gave, so that's the one we're going to start with. There are 2 survivors working on a generator. This generator will take 44 times 2, which is 88 seconds to complete, okay? It takes you 20 seconds to find somebody. So 20, I can't do math. I'm so bad at math. So basically 20 seconds, 20 divided by 88. 20 divided by 88 is what? 22% of the gen is now done at this point. Because he times that by 100. 22.7. So we'll round it up. So 23% of the generator is already done when you find somebody. Okay? So 80. So then as soon, literally as soon as you start that chase, the gen speeds go back to normal. So now the survivors have access to their 44 second gen time again. 23% of the generator is already done. I think this is the right math, but I could be wrong. 44 times 0.23, right? So they have 10.12. Is that right? I might incredibly be dumb here, but 10.12 is that number. And I'm on a blank here, dude. It's been a long day. So base, is that right? Okay, so 44, 88 times. Let me stop and think about this for a second. I have a thing in my head here. So the gen takes 88 seconds, takes 20 seconds to find somebody as the killer. So they've been on. So these 2 survivors have been on the generator for 20 seconds. 20 out of 88, right? Yeah, 20 divided by 88. Because they were on it for 20 seconds. Yeah, 20. So yeah, so 20 divided by 88. 22% of the generator is done when they do that. 23%. So we are now asking. What? So we take the number 44. What is 23% of that, right? So basically, what I'm trying to figure out here is, let me just say it in English. So even if I do the math wrong, everybody can figure it out anyway. People that are better at math than me. All the survivors have to do now, once they have access to that 44 seconds again, is to just finish the other 80% of the generator. The other, no, not 80, 77%. The other 77% of the generator. And all you have to do there is take 44 times 0.77. It would take the survivors 33 seconds to get that done. So basically, 33 plus 20... 53 seconds. It takes 44 seconds to do a generator. You saved a whopping 9 seconds. Big whipty fucking shit. There you go. That's the right math. You saved 9 seconds with this mechanic. Yeah. And you wonder why I think it's not going to do anything if it was in the game. Yeah, this mechanic doesn't work. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. At the beginning, I was slightly more optimistic. This mechanic doesn't work. This mechanic doesn't work. You can try all you want, guys. The fact is, nothing's gonna save high-level killer but a base regression to gen speeds. I don't care how they do it. Or significantly nerfing the maps to the point where they're necessary. The 80%, the 80-second gen speeds are necessary. So yeah, that's good if you like saving 9 seconds on generators. Yeah, this doesn't help. This doesn't help anybody. This might help the Wraith. Again, this might help the Wraith. But again, it's even admitted, because if the Wraith decided to initiate that chase, then the survivors would have access to that broken time. So yeah, that doesn't do anything. Big whip, dude. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, Scott, I love you, but you just gotta accept it, dude. Nothing's gonna help this game but a base nerf to survivors. They just need a base. The base nerf needs to. They just got this. Gen speeds have got to go. They've got to go. I don't care how they do it. They've got to go. Every solution except for a base regression, anything that you give survivors counterplay to will be abused. You just gotta hit them in the gens. Base nerf all around. The fact is, they can abuse the fact that their generator speeds are way too fucking fast. The killer snowball, not nearly enough to save it as you think that it does. You have to be a fucking, like, top tier MLG god to fucking do that. Yeah, that doesn't work. It legit, that mechanic wouldn't work. It would help the Wraith, and that's about it. Which, granted, the Wraith's a decent killer now because of True Talent. True Talent helped the Wraith. So the Wraith could really use that mechanic. I guess he could find somebody. But again, you have to down the guy. You have to down the guy if you want a significant advantage. You have to down the person. This True Talent's hit and run wouldn't really benefit from this, honestly. Like, the most optimal way to play the game, which is hit and run right now. Hit and run, call him out with nurses calling, thanatophobia, that shit. The most optimal way to play the game doesn't benefit from this at all. Because you want to apply the hit pressure as soon as possible. That's, granted, maybe the meta would shift, but, like, I don't think the meta would shift if he did that. Because it really wouldn't do anything. It would just, this mechanic is the equivalent of Ruin getting cleansed in 10 seconds. Like, that wouldn't do anything. It turns the generator time from 44 to 53. Yeah, big whippy shit, dude. That doesn't do anything. Am I dumb? Well, did I do that math right? I'm second guessing myself again. Let's run that math one more time. Okay, so 44 seconds. No. So 44 times 2, 88. 20. If you find the guy in 20 seconds, so they've been on the generator for 20 seconds, divided by 88, which is 23%. So 23% of the done. So how much does 40? So what is 77% of 44? 44 times 0.77, and then you were on it for 20 seconds. Yeah, that math's still right. That saves you 9 seconds on generators if you find the guy in 20 seconds. Like that, yeah, that doesn't do anything, dude. That's not gonna help killer at all. Zero. That will have zero impact on killer. Shit, dude. Like, again, you just gotta hit him in the gens. You just gotta hit him in the gens. Simple solutions are the best solutions, and like an entire new mechanic is not the way to go about this. You just gotta make the survivors. If you're not having fun, play a different game, because the fact is killers aren't having fun right now. And if you want a game, you have to have killers. Killers aren't having fun right now because the gen speeds are too fast. No survivors in the generators, or you're gonna keep losing killer players. It's literally that simple. Every complicated solution, new mechanic, is just not going to help the game. You just got to nerf the gens. It's not that hard. Add a 20-second regression. Like all you have to do, all you got to do is make it harder in the early game and make the gens speed up in the late game. You just got to let killer get off the fucking ground, dude. And again, like the game for killer. Well, I was gonna say it got easier. It's not easier now anymore with the ruin changes. Because killer only got hard before the way that killer worked before was like if ruin was still up, you still had control of the generators. As long as ruin was up, you still had more control of the gens than you did otherwise. Than you did without it. So it's really a complicated thing because the measure of killer's momentum could determine if ruin was still up. If ruin had a boost, if the boost you had from ruin was actually good, like then you had a lot of more momentum because of the survivors that you had. The survivors had control over the momentum that you had with ruin because they were the ones with the skill checks. Again, survivors still technically had control over hex ruin and how much it was actually doing for you. So that variable is probably too hard to quantify. But. And again, we're assuming top-level survivors, ruin probably wasn't really doing much for you. But it's still the thing that killed the game. Because even if one survivor couldn't hit the ruin, skill checks consistently, that could still help you. So it's just you just gotta hit him with the gens. You just gotta hit him with the gens. I don't really know how much more I can say that. Just hit him with the gens, dude. I think that's my entire thing. It sounded really good at first, but then I thought about it more, and it doesn't work, dude. That doesn't work at all. If you actually do the math behind it, it sounds really cool, right? 50% regression. Yeah, that's really neat. That doesn't work. You'd have to like buff the numbers significantly. Here. What the hell did I do with my phone? Did I lose my phone again? Am I that bad? No, it's right here. Okay, let's bump the number up to a 75% regression. So 75% regression. So 44 seconds. Oh, okay. This is actually harder. Times 0.75, right? 75% regression. So 75% of 100 is 75, right? Just give me a minute. I'm an English major. This is all really hard for me. 50% was easy because it was a nice, just multiply it by 2. Would it just be, what, 75%? No. 24 times 2. 4. No. I'm so bad with math, dude. I'm so bad with math. 75% regression would be what? To generator speeds. You take 75. No, you don't. 44 seconds. Well, let's see. 2 is 50. Right? I don't know what that would be. You're doing these generators at... Well, what would it be for 100, okay? 100 is... 75% of 100 is 75. That's simple enough, right? So let's start with that number. 75 divided by 100 is 75. So that means we need a number divided by 44 that would get us 75. So what is 33 divided by 44? Wow, I'm a god. That's actually 0.75. Okay, so if you do it, so 75% of 44 is 33. Okay, so what does that mean? That means something in this context. That means that you would add... Does it mean something? Because 44 times 2 is the 50% one. And 44 is more. No, wait, no. Because if it would be multiplied by 2... I'm spitball. I can't do this all in my head right now. This would be something I have to actually plan out. The point is that even if you make the number bigger, I really doubt it would be that much of an impact, based off that one statistic. It would break double digits. You might save 15 seconds on a gen, maybe, if they made it 75%, or 15 to 20 seconds on a gen. Which, I mean, maybe that would work. I think that would help Killer get started, but like then they have access to those broken times again. And then in an instance where they got out of disadvantage, because if you do that, then getting out of disadvantage is going to become more meta. So then people will start bringing stuff like "we'll make it" to get out of it. Oh, another way to cheese it. Another way to cheese what he said. What you can do with Object of Obsession, you could bring a syringe, get hit by the killer. Instantly use the syringe, you're healed in 8 seconds, and then the generator's times are back to normal. The Cytic agent would become meta if this got into the game. So there are so many ways to cheese this as a survivor, to the point where it would just go, well, this didn't do anything. This didn't do anything for anybody. Because then you still have to hit the guy twice again, because all he has to do is run up to you with a Cytic agent, and then he has Dead Hard, so he has 3 hits again before he goes down. Like Cytic agent, boom, easy. 2 hits again. Wow, that was hard. So many places where the killer's forced to approach if he wants to get you. That could help the syringe go off. It's the syringe, not the Cytic agent. There's so many ways to cheese this mechanic. This wouldn't do anything. Base nerf to gens. That's all you do, dude. Fuck this. We're done.